I mean, I didn't want to have to bring out the brooms on the other side, but the game literally ended like 20 seconds ago. So if we get swept, I gotta bring out the very girly broom because we just got our A's handed to us. That was a humbling series. Welcome back. I'm not wearing my usual shirt because I was too angry to put it on. Ashlyn is currently sitting in the bed that's directly right there, looking right at me, laughing and very monodically making fun of me, which she'll never tell me that, but I can tell by the way she's looking at me right now that she's judging me, that she is making fun of me. And I'm sure as soon as this camera's off, she will tell me the secondhand embarrassment that she's having right now. Do you have anything to say? Okay. If you're wondering where I got this hat, my beautiful, loving, so amazing girlfriend of 3.5 years got this for me when she went to the Iron Pigs game with her parents, and I love it. So it's one of one. Stop looking at me. He's
No, it's actually one of like 5,000 that they gave away.
If you couldn't hear what she said, I don't know how sensitive this mic is. She said it's not one of one. It's one of one. It's one of like 5,000 that they gave away, but it's the only one that a girlfriend got for their boyfriend. So yeah, okay. Back to keep.
Well, and that Gary actually had to go up and go get
Oh
it.
yeah, that's true. So it was once per person, and her stepdad got one for himself. He then proceeded to go to like a different gate and get one for me too. So because it was only like one per. Yeah, it was like men for Father's Day. So this is I'm not a dad, in case anybody's wondering. No, not particularly. Anyway, that was a very infuriating. Stop looking over here. Just well, she's just I'm gonna disregard. I don't usually do these with an audience. I don't. There she goes. Okay, she's doing her own thing. Anyway, yeah, that series sucked. That was a humbling series for the Red Hot Phils. They got swept technically, but it wasn't a sweep because it was only two games, supposed to be three, but it was only two. So anyway, usual, we got headlines. We're going to talk about the game. We have where are they now? And then wrap it up talking about the Mets series that is coming up. So the news, Derek Hall was activated and sent down to AAA, and Dalton Guthrie was actually designated for assignment. I never liked Dalton Guthrie. He was more so a like a defensive replacement. I never thought his bat played in the majors, even in the minors. I was still skeptical about it. But the interesting thing is with Derek Hall, because a lot of people assumed when Derek Hall was ready that Cody Clemens would be sent down. Derek Hall would keep you would stay with the big league club. That's not the case. Derek Hall was immediately sent down to AAA, and I think that's an indictment on Cody Clemens because he has played extremely well in the given time he has been playing. He plays a really good first base. His bat has been fairly consistent considering the spot he's been put in. So I think that was the right move, is keeping Clemens up with the big league club, because I think Hall, it's a lot of boomer bust, and there's too many boomer bust guys in this lineup, as we know. Like Schwarber, and we'll get to Schwarber once we're talking about today's game, because he single-handedly cost us a game. So uh, but the other news, Michael Plasmeyer was designated for assignment because Rafael Marchand was activated from the 60-day IL. So, I mean, Plasmeyer looked really good all year in AAA. Last year looked like a guy that if somebody got hurt, like they did this year, he could come up, tackle some innings. However, that wasn't really the case this year. He took a massive step back, so him being DFA'd was not exactly a shocker. So that's going to do it for the news. And now we'll get into the two games, which both sucked. Both very winnable games, both losses. I said in the last episode that take one of these games. They very easily could have taken today's game if Kyle Schwarber knew how to play left field. But it was just the contrast between the two teams. The Braves are one of the best ran organizations in the entire league, and they just look like that comparatively to the Phillies. The Braves outplayed us, I feel like, at every given spot. That being said, I do feel like, I know this is going to be like almost like a paradox, but we looked just as good as them, but when it came down to crunch time and stomping on our throats, they did it better. Because they are the better team. I mean, I don't think that's a surprise to anybody that the Braves are a better team than us. Look at the record. I mean, you split down there in Atlanta, and then you get embarrassed in Philly practically because of one play. And it was just annoying. So the Phillies lost game 1 4-2. The issues with runners in scoring position are starting to creep back in. We saw it towards in the last two games of the A's series, and unfortunately it carried over into this series. It's the Phillies have never had issues getting guys on. It's just getting them in. I thought, for a while during that Dodgers series, the D-back series, even the beginning of the A's series, that stuff was kind of being put to rest, and they were actually, executing well and bouncing back well, like say in that last game of the Diamondback series. Excuse me, the last game of that Diamondback series, Nola gives up the lead. He's up 3-0. Nola gives up the lead, and they immediately bounce back and score to, ultimately win that game. But it was the immediate comeback, and it just felt like they couldn't push through. They were always like this, but just couldn't break through. And it sucked. So Ranger was phenomenal. He struggled with his command a little bit early on, but I mean, he still pitched 6 solid innings, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, worked in and out of some trouble in the in the 6th. So it was good. Harper had a couple hits. Same with Marsh. The scoring got led off by Casty in the 5th inning with an RBI single. And then like clockwork, the new Braves Philly killer, Austin Riley, hit a home run to tie it up in the 6th, which I honestly think was the most predictable thing of all time. And then Ranger, like I said, kind of worked in and out of damage. So here was my main issue. You have an off day, and yes, I knew your bullpen was a little taxed by the end of that series with the A's, but you get to this game after an off day, and you think you would have all your weapons at your disposal if you're Rob Thompson. And he didn't. Apparently, Matt Strahm and Alvarado and who was the last? And Marte were all unavailable today. Meaning yes, or the day before. Huh? I mean, Strahm I get. Alvarado I sort of get. But Marte pitched him one game and he threw 15 pitches. If you can't use him, obviously it blew up today, but that, again, wasn't his fault. But you go with Jeff Hoffman in the 7th, which I didn't hate because Jeff Hoffman has been pretty good in a Phillies uniform so far. And, you think he could work, in and out of, whatever. And then he immediately blows up. It wasn't even like he got 2 outs really quickly and then crumbled. It was almost immediately that he gave up the lead on an Acuna RBI single, which I'm glad it was only an RBI single because that guy surprisingly didn't kill us in this series. You got an Ozzy Albies in the 7th with a RBI ground out. And left everybody wondering, why'd you go with Hoffman in that situation? Why not Soto? Why not one of your other big guys? Why did you have to go with Soto, or not with Soto, excuse me, with Hoffman? I didn't mind going with Hoffman. I like the more I sit with it, the more I'm like, I get it because he's been good, but look at recently, he hasn't been. And that's just kind of the same thing I've said in the last episode about Strom. Strom with a 7 ERA hasn't pitched in 4 days. So he probably will be used in and not the bullpen game, but the Chris Sanchez start on Saturday. He'll probably be used then. But I mean, and then, you get to the next inning and you go with Andrew Vasquez, which I guess if Strom was right, this would have been I mean, what's happening when you put in Vasquez is the exact thing that I said you should do in the last one, which is give the high leverage lefty roles when you don't have Alvarado or Soto available. Give him the Andrew Vasquez, and that's what happened. And he gave up a solo home run to Matt Olson, which sure, I mean, like, and that was a bomb. That was a hanger. So, I mean, those two I understand. And then you get to the ninth. And for some reason, Rob Thompson decides to go with Dylan Covey in a 3-run game against the division rival. And how Dylan Covey is still on this team, I have no idea. But he is. I mean, yes, he pitched a scoreless ninth, but it doesn't matter. Why in God's name, when you have Kimbrel, Alvarado, Soto, Marte, have those guys at your disposal, you go with a guy in Dylan Covey, who the Braves massacred in his last start, right? Yeah, that was his last start. The Braves massacred him. So, yes, let's throw him against almost the heart of their lineup in the ninth inning against the division rival, not in a must-win game, but any division rival game is a must-win game. And, yes, it worked out, but I still don't understand the point of going there. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part, and I kind of have two worst parts here. My first one is the lighter one, which is good and bad, and obviously less good now because of what happened in today's game is Trey Turner hit 3 balls to the warning track in this game. And I thought that was him because we saw at the end of the the end of the A's series that Marsh was hitting the ball well. He had 5 hits in this series. He looked like Marsh was getting back on track a little bit. And I thought this was going to be like Trey Turner starting to get back on track. But then today he looked like he was swinging a wet noodle at the plate again. Yes, he worked the walk. He got hit by a pitch. He got on base. But what a guy you get paid $300 million to, you want him to drive the ball a little bit. And he just hasn't been doing that. He drove it in this game, but the wind was knocking everything down besides Olson's home run. I thought he had 3 home runs in this game, and maybe it's a different outcome on, a July night, but we're still in June. And then you get to this, honestly, the worst mistake you could have made. And, I don't understand it. All the decisions in this game from Rob Thompson and whatever, I can almost explain outside of Covey. JT Realmuto in the 8th inning, Phillies down by 3, hits a single up the middle. Runner goes to third, and for whatever reason, JT tries to go to second and gets thrown out with Alec Bohm on deck. Your best RBI guy is on deck. So why in the hell are you going to second base on that ball? It's not even like it was 3-1. If it's 3-1, maybe I can excuse it because then instead of a single scoring one, you go first to third and then it's the next guy up. All right. It's just Ryan. So I had to pause the recording because Ashlyn and I are home alone and we heard somebody upstairs. And being the manly man I am, I went and investigated. Definitely didn't have a broom hiding at the top of the steps. Definitely didn't do that. But it was just my brother. So there was nothing to worry about. as he's still walking around upstairs. I even forget where was I. Oh yeah. Um, the JT thing. So JT tries to get the second, and I don't understand what in God's name he's doing, especially with Bohm coming up, who's been your best RBI guy, who's hitting well over 300 runners in scoring position. I don't get it. You know, it's the next guy up, just down the line, down the line, down the line, down the line. But, you know, what are you doing there? Stay at first. Don't try to stretch it. You're not down by two. You know, you know, even if you're down by two, stay at first. Who knows what happens? I get, you know, you got to make a play, but Michael Harris is not a bad center fielder, and he threw him out on a dot, like to no one's surprise. So it was just a very infuriating game. One that it was very easily winnable. He just got away because of poor bullpen management, because of poor base running. And that was it, you know. And then game 2 was postponed to 9/11. It'll be a day-night doubleheader against Atlanta because of the rain. There was some funny stuff with Bohm and Marsh and Austin Riley on the Braves, some wholesome content. But I think the funniest thing to come out of that was, you know, they said the first pitch was going to be at 7:15 and then just ghosted everybody. Was nothing. And then at like 9:30, they're like, oh, sorry, game's over. Game's not getting played. I'm like, oh, gee, thanks. And then we get to today's game, which was, which like kind of sucked because it was 0-0. Nola pitched great, 6 shutout innings from him, which I didn't know that was allowed in 2023. And then you had Soto and Kimbrel and Alvarado all with scoreless innings. Alvarado, there was a great play by Trey Turner. But my biggest thing, you know, you're going up against Bryce Elders, and Bryce Elders is a solid rookie pitcher for the Braves because no matter who they bring up, they just know how to pitch, know how to do this, know how to whatever. Bryce Elder throws like 91 miles an hour. So you think he could catch up to that as big league hitters, as guys you're paying 100, 200, 300 million dollars to? You think they could just figure that out? Maybe. There was no approach to this guy. It was strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, gone, and then the next player would hit the first pitch on a ground ball. Like, it was infuriating, especially because this guy has had like an 80 RA in his past like 3 or 4 starts. And same thing with Strider in game 1. He sucked his past few starts, but of course he figures out how to pitch against the Phillies. And same with Elders. Like, you just couldn't figure this guy out. And it was infuriating because he's not a very good pitcher. But he gets outs, I guess. But, like, come on. There was no offensive approach. You know, they would. I felt like a lot of balls that were hit on a line. Stott had a couple balls that were hit on a line that was right to somebody, whether it was Pilar in left or Acuna in center. It was infuriating, and it just sucked, and I hated it. And then we get to the 10th inning, which, because there's really nothing else to talk about. Well, there was the great play by Trey Turner in the 9th to keep it, or excuse me, in the 8th. To keep it 0-0. It was 1st and 3rd. Ozuna hit a ball to range to his left, slid, stood up, fired the first for the out. And that was a great play. That was very, very good. Trey Turner has been showing the Gold Glove defense that we certainly signed him for his defense, right? And then you get to the 10th inning. And, you know, I texted Matt Sporsky. I said, $100 says Marte is going to go in the 10th and implode because he's been too good for too long. He's due for a bad outing, and that's just it. So, and again, this implosion by Marte is not his fault. It should have only been the 1 run, a 1 unearned run. But, so Acuna hits the ball up the middle, or, yeah, no, that was, I forget who hit it, but because I was in a blind rage when all of this was happening. You get 2 outs, 1st and 3rd, or 2nd and 3rd, because Acuna steals 2nd. And then it's just 1 more out. Line drive right to Schwarber. And what does he do? Drops it. Makes it 3-0. And then almost on the next pitch, 2-run home run to make it 5-0. So when the inning should have ended at 1-0, It instead ended 5-0 because Kyle Schwarber's defense is so terrible that it cost us this game. And that wasn't the first time. You had the game out in Arizona that cost them a game. You had, even earlier in this game, a very routine fly ball to any other left fielder, and he butchered it. Bryce cannot get healthier soon enough so he can play first base and Schwarber can get the hell out of left field because he's bad out there. And, he's costing us games, and his offense isn't justifying him coming out of left field. Or excuse me, his offense is not justifying him staying in left field because he's batting under 200. The homers aren't exactly there like they were last year. I know it's June and he's played well in June-ish, but it's not like he's hitting like 210 and has like 10 home runs this month. Like, his offense has just been okay this month. And I know this is supposed to be Schwarber's month, but I don't care. Kyle Schwarber can't be out in left field anymore. And I get he has to, but when it get to the 9th inning or get to the 10th inning, I don't care that he's up. Throw Christian Pache out there. Solid up your defense. Harper needs to get healthy. It won't be until after the All-Star break, but it's still infuriating that I have to sit here and watch Kyle Schwarber flounder around in left field because he's bad. Like, last year, you couldn't really tell how bad he was. I thought he was, okay. Yes, there was a few balls that he should have gotten to and didn't, but for the most part, he was fine out there. This year, it's bad. It's noticeably bad defense from Kyle Schwarber in left field. So the quicker Harper gets to first and that DH spot opens up, you slide Schwarber in there, you let Pache play left field, and everybody's happier. And I honestly think this offense gets better with Pache in it. A sentence I never thought I'd say, but he has been really, really good for the Phillies of late. Had a few hits in the series in Oakland. Yes, he struck out today, but he was pinch hitting, which again, having Marsh be pinch hit for in that spot when Marsh is 2 for 3 today was stupid. I still don't understand why Rob Thompson will let Stott bat against lefties and let Schwarber and Harper bat against lefties, but not Marsh. Not Marsh. Marsh can't bat against lefties. That I don't understand. But it was a extremely humbling series for the Phillies, and it was infuriating. What are you doing over there? Okay. Ashlyn's doing her whatever over there. If I seemed a little distracted, it's because she's over there. And I get self-conscious talking in front of people. I have terrible public. Well, it's like public speaking. I'm terrible at public speaking as I do this. And I wanted to do karaoke on the thing. I feel like I could have. A couple shots of me. Let it rip. Anyway, we're now on to everybody's favorite segment. Where are they now? A series in which we look back at the highlights of the Phillies' past bullpen from 2018 to last year. All the great names that have come out of there, the legends that have come out of there. And I have 3 guys on here who are just great. One of these guys I believed in a lot. The other is kind of a meme. And the third one, I'd be shocked if you remember who they are. So my first guy on this list is Victor Arano. So Victor Arano was signed as an international free agent by the Dodgers in 2013. Was then promptly traded to the Phillies in 2014 for Roberto Hernandez. He spent time in minor leagues from 2014 until getting the call in 2017, in which he spent the next couple years with the Phillies. And in those couple years, he pitched in 74 and 2/3 innings, 62 hits, 22 earned runs, 23 walks, 80 strikeouts to a 2.65 ERA. His biggest issue was availability. I felt like every year he was hurt or he had some issue, just couldn't consistently stay healthy to be a mainstay in this bullpen because, you look at a 2.65 ERA, he pitched well. He had decent enough stuff to stay in the rotation. I just think health was his main issue. Because I honestly think that he probably would still be on this team if he was able to stay healthy. But unfortunately, it's one of those biggest what ifs I don't know if Urano would have been anything on this team now, especially with the depth that they have in the reliever role. So maybe he wouldn't be on this team, but you got to think. After the Phillies DFA'd him in 2021, he then spent time in the Braves minor league system. And when I saw he signed with the Braves, I'm like, he's going to come back and haunt us, isn't he? Because that's just what happens. Players leave the Phillies and come back to haunt us all the time, i.e. Travis d'Arnaud or Brad Miller, Phil Gosselin, Jason Worth. What? Do you want me to plug it in? I have to plug Ashlyn's phone in. Don't throw it. Just walk over here. The charger's right here. You can watch TV. All right, little in like 10 minutes. Give me a break here. Probably less. Well, we had to go investigate what's going on upstairs. You're fine. And then he signed with Washington in 2021 after the Braves DFA'd him and currently remains on their team. He's currently on the 60-day IL for the Nationals, coming back to his entire health situation. But in 2021 and 2022, actually pitched in 42 innings, 21 earned runs, 12 walks, 44 strikeouts to a 4.5 ERA. So not bad. Like, he's been fine. So that's Victor Arano. My next guy is a guy that I bought all the stock in, and I think a lot of Philadelphians did. I know Gabe Kapler bought a lot of stock in him too, because he was the number 2 starter in 2019, a team that had Jake Arrieta on it. And that would be none other than Nick Pivetta, current Boston Red Sox Nick Pivetta. So Nicky P was drafted by the Nationals in the 4th round of the 2013 draft. He then was traded to the Phillies in 2015 for Jonathan Papelbon. Shout out to Jonathan Papelbon. He then spent 2017 to 2020 with the Phillies, and boy golly, do I got some numbers for you. 94 games, 73 starts, 406 and 2/3 innings, 213 earned runs, 170 walks, 427 strikeouts to a 4.71 ERA. He was a guy that was the wrong stats. Did he really? Wow, he has very similar numbers with the Phillies. Excuse me, that was his numbers with the Red Sox. With the Phillies, 73 games, 94 games, 73 games started, 406 and a third, 244 earned runs, 153 walks, 443 strikeouts to a 5.4 ERA. So not very good, but you can see how similar his numbers are between the Phillies and the Red Sox. The ERA is a little lower for the Red Sox, but still a 4.7. Pivetta was one of those guys that has all the tools, and hoping that every pitching coach that the Phillies would bring in could fix him. I really thought when the Phillies had, what was his name in 2020, the pitching coach, the guy from the Reds, I forget who it was, but a very good hire. I thought he was going to be able to fix him, but nope. He had all the stuff, had good velocity, just could never figure it out. And clearly he still hasn't been able to figure it out. So the Phillies decided in 2020 to trade him and Connor Siebold to the Boston Red Sox for Brandon Workman and Heath Hembree. And we all know how that trade went. I'm 90% sure Heath Hembree was already talked about in this series, but maybe he wasn't. So maybe I'll have to look back at the thing, because I know Brandon Workman hasn't been, but he will be. And then I already read off his numbers with the Red Sox. So that's Nick Pivetta. And then the next guy is kind of a meme, is kind of a guy that I am making a shirt about, because I often pondered what he would be able to do with the Phillies if he was still here. That would be Cam Bedrosian. So Cam Bedrosian was drafted in the 1st round of the 2010 draft by the LA Angels. He then spent 2010 to 2014 in their minors until getting the call in 2014 with the Angels, in which he spent a majority of his career up until 2020. He then bounced around a lot in 2021. He was signed by the Reds, then picked up by Oakland, and then after being released by Oakland, signed with the Phillies. And then in 2021 with the Phillies, 11 games, 10 and a third innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 7 walks, 8 strikeouts to a 4.35 ERA. Sometimes I wonder why Joe Girardi would go to Cam Bedrosian in a lot of these big spots, but I don't know, because I think the shirt I am gonna make says, do you remember when Cam Bedrosian was tackling big innings? Because Joe Girardi loved him. Joe Girardi loved his guys out there in when he was the manager. And Cam Bedrosian, unfortunately, was one of them. As I'm currently looking at Ashland hanging upside down on the inversion table, is what I'm being told it's called. So that's happening to my left over here. But after the 2021 season, he actually re-signed with the Phillies in 2022, however, was released in August due to injury. He then is currently signed with the High Point Rockers of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. He has not pitched yet in 2023. He recently signed there as of this month, so he doesn't have any stats with there. I also saw Kyle Bearclaw is also on this team. Kyle Bearclaw, awesome last name, but I'll never forget Kyle Bearclaw because of the Nick Williams walk-off in like 2018. Or no, it was the Mike Franco walk-off. Nick Williams tied the game, and then Mike Franco hit that home run to win the game. So if you remember that, that's a deep cut right there, talking about Kyle Bearclaw. So I'm almost positive this is the only podcast talking about Kyle Bearclaw in the year 2023. So there you go. And now for the final segment, we just have the series preview against the New York Metropolitans. And the pitching matchups are as followed. We got Taijuan Walker against Kodai Senga, Christopher Sanchez against Carlos Carrasco, and Zach Wheeler versus Max Scherzer. So just take a game, win the series. The Mets are spiraling out of control, so capitalize on that. But I know this Phillies team like the back of my hand, and they won't. They won't. They'll lose 2 out of 3 or get swept again by a division rival, because that's just what we do here, apparently. Walker has been very, very good his past few starts out, so hopefully he carries that momentum in. And Kodai Senga numbers on the road are a lot worse than they are at home, so maybe they can do some damage there. Christopher Sanchez looks to bounce back from getting hit in the hands in that Oakland game and looking to carry the momentum he had in that first game, so we'll see how he does there. Carrasco has been a little underwhelming for the Mets so far this year, so hopefully, again, the Phillies can capitalize on that. And then you have Zach Wheeler against Max Scherzer. I think that's going to be a classic pitcher's duel. I know Scherzer hasn't been looking the best this year, but he's still Max Scherzer, and Zach Wheeler looked really, really good in his last start. So I think a little bit of me is believing that this team can pull out 2 out of 3. And the game they'll lose is going to be like the Wheeler Scherzer start, because that's what it is. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. You have all the socials and stuff down below, as Ashland is still on the inversion table to my left. Follow all the socials. I'm going to be back on Sunday to talk about the Mets series, and then we will go from there. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.